Hey guys, it's Monty here, back with a review. And in this review, we're going to do something a little different. Usually I've been reviewing miniature kits, and in this video, I'm going to do a terrain style review. Now, if you're like me and you play Flames of War, and I'm a big fan of Flames of War in the desert, or if you play any kind of miniature war game and you're going to need some terrain, you should make your own. I love making my own terrain. I think it's a lot of fun. So in this video, I'm going to give you guys kind of a brief rundown about how I make my own terrain. So a couple examples of some terrain I've got some desert palm trees. I've got a desert or kind of a Mediterranean style olive tree. And then one I just made recently was a sign, an air raid sign. So, and they all use kind of the similar technique, and so I'm going to show you guys today how I make some of these, and maybe you could apply some of these to your own and build your own terrain. So here it is, just kind of in scale with a, sorry about that, with a grant. So as you can see, a grant kind of can be obscured by like an olive tree. Olive trees aren't really are big, but they're not, as tall as a palm tree. And so the cool part about scatter terrain is if you've got like a battle mat like I have, because I don't have a dedicated gaming table area in my house, and I set it up on the kitchen table, I can roll out my mat and I can kind of change around my terrain per how, we're playing for like a battle or something. So it's a really fun, I like building scatter terrain. I think it's a lot of fun and it's pretty simple. So I'm going to show you guys kind of the standard techniques of what I do. So there's a couple of things you're going to need if you want to build something like these palms. These palms, I think I built quite a few of them. The palm trees themselves I just bought on Amazon for $7 or $8 for I think 14 of them. So I bought 2 of those, so I had about 30 some palm trees, 28 palm trees actually. So I built them all and put them on kind of a combination of bases. So this one I did 3. There's a couple I did 2, and then 2, and they're different sizes. So what I did was I picked up a couple of these plastic bases. You could also use, if you've got MDF, MDF is great, so just use MDF bases. So I start out with a base, and then what I did for any of these, because I found it easier, I used a hot glue gun to glue the tree directly to the base. I don't have any extra trees right now, or I'd show you guys how to do this. I'm actually just learning how to do a lot of these videos for part of my job. But, so yeah, I start out with gluing a tree to a base, and then after that's dry, I use kind of this handy dandy spackle, and I love using spackle. It's great for infantry basing. It's great for kind of all-purpose terrain basing. So if you build any kind of things in Flames of War, this is kind of just spackle is what brought me into building some really cool type bases and adding a good amount of texture to these too. As you can see, there's some really good texturing on there, and I'm going to show you guys how to do that pretty simply. It really does not take too much. So what we'll do is I'll start out with using one of my MDF bases here for this example. We're going to crack open our spackle. Now if we get a tub of spackle, always make sure you seal it up tight. You don't want to have a whole tub and then it dries out. So then you take kind of a big blob of it. Now I'm using a knife here. Don't use your good kitchen knives. Go to a thrift shop and find a junk knife, or if you've got a sculpting knife, do that. Don't raid your cutlery drawer. Your significant other or your spouse or your wife might get real upset at you. So once you've got your spackle, kind of apply it on here. Smooth it out so it covers the whole base. Now if you want to go for a base or a terrain piece that's pretty smooth, we can see this is a pretty smooth flat area. So in the light here, you can't really see it too well. It's very smooth, not much texture to it. But the real trick in a lot of this comes from adding some grit. So if you've got some sand or something, ballast, you can use that to add texture to this. So if you want to make a hill or something on there, or a bump, you can just use your finger or your knife to smooth that out. And then what I do, I sprinkle some sand or some grit onto here. Tap it off to make sure you've got it all on there, right? And there you have it. It's got some nice texture, and then when that dries and you paint over it, then you can have all those little bumps in there. Now the secret to coming and getting something like this and then painting it is you've got to get a good solid base coat before you start doing some dry brushing. So what color I use typically, because it matches my terrain board best, and I do this for some of my scatter pieces. For a larger piece, I'll just use kind of your cheaper paint, but I'll use kind of as close color to brown sand as I can. My battle mat is a close color to this, and so when you make your scatter terrain, make sure you do kind of test swatches to see what colors fit your terrain best. And once you have that, once you've got your base coat down, use some lighter coats. Play around with dry brushing. I use a dry brush of Iraqi sand and buff to get something like this. And this kind of general technique works for all sorts of stuff. So if you're like me and you like scatter terrain, you can scale it up from small things like this. So a while ago I built this oasis. So I got a huge piece of MDF, cut it, did kind of that same technique after I mapped out kind of an area where I wanted water. And I might show you guys how to do some water effects in one of these videos later. And yeah, see how easy, it's real easy, and it adds some good texture to it. So when you put it on your tabletop, you can just have some really cool looking terrain, and you can take pride in a lot of the stuff you do. Anyways, this has been Monty. I hope you found this kind of little bit of terrain tutorial kind of helpful. In the comments below, tell me what you think. Would you like to see some more of these videos? Would you like to see some terrain builds? Would you like to see some model painting? I'm learning how to do a lot of this stuff now on YouTube, so I'm kind of excited to see where this goes. Anyways, this is Monty, signing off.